Următorul nostru speaker este domnul Lothrop. El este un venture capitalist, dar și filantrop. A fost ultimul speaker pe care l-am confirmat pentru ediția de anul acesta Inspiro și mi-aduc aminte că ne-am văzut la fosta lui călătorie din România de acum 3 săptămâni și eram în restaurantul unui hotel și vorbeam și vă mărturisesc că a fost pentru prima dată când mi s-a întâmplat ca cineva să-mi zică: cred atât de tare în ideea ta încât sunt dispusă să îți dau niște bani. Și nu vreau nimic în schimb, nu vreau să-mi pui nici sigla, nu vreau să... Pur și simplu cred în proiectul ăsta și vreau să vă ajut. Mulțumim! Ce vreau să vă spun, de fapt, este că Don este un venture capitalist care vine din Silicon Valley. Este, știm cu toții, un loc pe care îl privim așa ca pe un loc mirific, dar, de fapt, în spatele acestui loc sunt și foarte multe povești și foarte multe povești despre eșec. Și despre asta am încercat să-l provoc să vorbească astăzi, pentru că, într-adevăr, despre succes e mult mai ușor să vorbim decât despre momentele dificile. Și așa că, please, come with me. Aplauze, vă rog, pentru el.
So is my PowerPoint beeper? Bine, perfect. Okay, bună dimineața. First off, Angela, Christy, thank you. Angela, I would always take estrogen over testosterone if I were trying to change. There's a museum in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a museum of the women's suffrage movement, the right to vote. Because first in America could women vote, about 150 years after we were formed. And it pointed out, men always result to violence. Not always. Usually result to violence to change. Only women can change things peacefully. So thank you. And Christy, suta la suta, your mother is proud of you. Thanks. So I'm going to talk about failure. So I was thinking about this morning. In 1995, I was in Kona Village, which is an interesting place in Hawaii. This is where rich people go to act poor. You live in huts. And I was sitting on the beach, and there was a fat guy, completely bald on the crown of his head, who had so much sand going up literally through his baggy shorts into his crotch. I said, how can he just sit there? And then I realized who it was. He'd been fired from Apple. His new computer next was going bankrupt, and I felt sorry for him. And he was Steve Jobs. And he took, I'm sure, from those two failures, he learned for Pixar and Apple. I want to start this talk with these guys. These are referees in the Romanian American Football League. If they look confused and they don't know the rules, they don't. My son plays in the league. But he loves playing in the Romanian Football League because everybody is learning together. There's no shame in your mistakes. Everybody who plays in the league almost learned by playing on an Xbox. And they're continued to be, well, they're on my screensaver on my computer. Let me go to the next one. So this is my resume on failure. When I was a kid, I was no good at anything, nothing. I used to go to dances in 8th grade, and I'd walk into a room like this. My mom would drop me off, and I'd walk around for 2 hours and walk out sweaty and tell my parents the dance was great. I never danced, I never asked anyone, and no one even talked to me. So those are my credentials to talk about failure. As Romina said, I'm a venture capitalist. Venture capitalists are experts in failure. We think about Google, Facebook. We invested in Microsoft. 95% of what we do fails. And even in the companies that succeed, almost every day we're dealing with failure. If you I looked up the word venture in the dictionary for venture capital. And it's in English, it's dare to do something, to take a risk. In America, 80% of new businesses fail within 18 months. As I mentioned, in the venture business at Delphi, only 5% of our companies won big. 95% failed. Like 70 actually completely failed. When I entered the venture business as an associate with Marquette Ventures, the senior partners told me, Don, we're not going to know for 10 years whether you're any good. And we're going to have to lose $20 million. Companies that I'm going to put money into that will lose money before they know whether I'm any good. In my first 4 years, I started 5 companies, 4 went public, 2 were bought. I turned $16 million into $70 million. And I thought to myself, these partners are fools. I'm the exception. I'm great. I was recruited to join Jim Bucknowski and David Douglas at Delphi Ventures. And over the next 7 years in California, I proceeded to lose $90 million. After 10 years in the business, I was at break even. It was not clear whether I was any good or not. In the 11th through the 14th year, I made enough money so I never needed to work for the rest of my life. And I think what I'd like to do is to talk about what I learned in the business context, and then talk about my favorite thing, which is you, Romanians. So I put the lessons, and I'll go through them quickly, about what I learned about failure as a venture capitalist. The most important thing to do is think about the world as it's going to be in 5 to 10 years. You're not investing in the now, you're investing in the future. The biggest mistake I made as an investor is if somebody was successful at something, I would start a company that was close to it. And it was easy to raise money because people knew what it was. I mean, every great idea that we made $1 billion on, people said, it's stupid, I don't work, I don't get it, every single time. I know Dan Case, AOL went bankrupt 2 times because no one could understand email. I know Jeff Skoll, no one could understand eBay. So my advice for avoiding failures in enterprises is think about the way the world's going to be in 5 to 10 years. I think Christie's done it. Evan Williams, who founded Google, was not one of the early guys at Google and one of the founders at Twitter, his new business is about storytelling. And so that would be my first story. And I think I might talk about a couple failures of mine that are in the making. So one of the first things I did in Romania is a couple 60-year-old men asked me if we would buy up all the land in their village. This is a map from 2005. For the last 10 years, I've spent buying every single parcel on that land, getting carte funciata on it. And people thought, you are an idiot. I mean, you should be building apartments in Cluj in 2005, 2006, 2007. Well, you are an idiot. But what I saw in Romania, and again, I may completely fail at this. They may be right. But what I saw in Romania was in a world running out of clean land, clean air, clean water. Some of the most precious land in the world. What I also saw in the cities of Romania is communist urban planning. And if you actually believe it makes any sense to plan a city, you can't fix, other than the inner cities of like Cluj, you can't fix the rest of the city. It is cemented in a communist ethos, which is that we're going to deny people their individuality. We're going to put them in blocks. We're not going to give them parks to hang out in. And the roads are built for military vehicles, and there's no provision for cars. So I believed if we could buy all this land, we could build a new town from scratch. And we paid 50 cents a square meter for the land. But that's what I did for 10 years, and everyone thought I was stupid. Second lesson is have a purpose in what you believe. There's a great TED video called Start With Why, which is every business has to have a why. And that if you have a why, it's not so hard to find people. They come to you because they have the same why. One of the reasons I never thought Apple was going to tube when Jobs died, it's everyone who I knew worked at Apple prided themselves on thinking differently, that motto. That's why they're there. And so businesses have to have a why. And if you have a why, also, when your business almost always goes through real difficult times, people don't quit because they're there because they come to work for the same reason, the purpose in the business. Actually, let me go back to my failure in the making. We have a purpose, which is we want to change the way people live, not only in Romania, but in Europe. So this is the land that I just showed you. This is the community that we're planning to build. The main way of getting around this community is walking. So everywhere you see something dark green is a walking trail. Everything that's something light is where you live. You always walk out the front door of your home, onto a walking trail. And your kids can walk anywhere in the community without crossing a road. I'm going to run out of time if I talk any more about my failure. So I won't for right now. Lesson number 3, when you start something off, everything that you do will be wrong. You'll have the wrong product, the wrong price, the wrong people, the wrong channel products. It'll be the wrong time. You'll have the wrong cash flow forecast. Everything takes at least 4 or 5 years to hit an inflection point. This is the company that we started in Cluj, Transylvania. The purpose is, Romanians said, we want to quit buying tomatoes from Turkey that have no taste. They knew nothing else, the 2 Romanian guys who founded it. We started, if you look off to the right, way off into the right, by going to China and getting some of these little hobby greenhouses and selling them. And we didn't sell a single one. Now, the tall ones are what we have, but we went through a cycle. The first year, all we had to offer was service. By the 3rd and 4th year, we had enough success to invest in manufacturing so we could offer lower cost. Now we actually have got product superiority and new design. And in the month of March, we did more revenue than we did all last year. But for 4 years, it was a struggle. The last 3 points, never settle for mediocre people. As a venture capitalist, the number one thing you do is you look for talented people. Even if you don't have a job for them now, you look for talented people. Almost always, the people that worked in my companies were not people I hired a headhunter for. So you can't settle for mediocre people. You can be wrong on many details. You can fail every day, but you have to be sure about the outcome. If you go, yeah, but, you're done. Yeah, but in a world where there's always people trying to chew you up. And lastly, build trust. Trust is the currency of life. When I set up my private equity fund in Romania, I had 20 CEOs in the United States that I'd work with ask if they could invest. And I said, you can't invest in Romania unless you come with your family. I didn't think they'd come. They did. And when my Romanian partners would say, why did you do this? Say, Don isn't the smartest guy, but if he said he was going to do something, he did it. It was not conditioned by time. It's not, I'll be on your board for 2 years. It's 5 years. I'll be on here till the end, until we sell the company. So build trust. So let me transition to my own life a little bit. I learned a lot from the cycle of failure, learning, and getting better in business. But it wasn't until 42 when I began to apply it in my life. I looked at myself and the people around me in Silicon Valley, and I found these 5 truths. People that focus on money never have enough. People that focus on their body are consumed by their imperfections. People consumed by power need more of it to cover the fear of insecurity. And people who are consumed by their own intelligence worry about hiding all the things they don't know. No. Lastly, people focused on themselves were lonely, stressed out, and had no peace. I've never been anywhere where I met more men on antipsychotic drugs than on Sand Hill Road in California. I didn't know one successful venture capitalist over 50 who wasn't on drugs because money had ruined their son, if there's one reason. So at 42, in June of 2002, I stepped down from leading Delphi Ventures. I shocked everybody, including myself, because at the beginning of the month, I didn't know I was going to do it. Like most life changes, mine was a little bit messy, my personal life. 6 months earlier, I moved out of my home. For the first time in my life, I couldn't sleep. I was involved with another woman, and 2 days after I quit, she sent me an email, said she never wanted to see me again. For the next 3 years, I lived alone in Menlo Park's version of a communist cement block on Sharon Road, about 200 meters from my home. They were the most painful 3 years of my life, but it led to the most fulfilling decade of my life as a father in the last 10 years in Romania. What I learned is that Christ is real. I don't talk about it unless anyone asks, so I won't. I live it, and I love it. I learned, and I believe that every person is uniquely created to do great things. Some get more attention than others, but everyone is uniquely great. The 2 women who translated for Angela and Christy, thank you. I never would have understood what they said without you doing it. And third, I learned at the core of all of our stories is serving other people. That is the source of our satisfaction. When I came to Romania for the first time in 2003, my life was a mess. But what I found in Romania, in Romanians, were the person that I wanted to become. I found people that actually did very meaningful things in their life humbly, never trying to get attention. If I ever did anything, I wanted people to know about it. I found Romanians coming home, much like Christy's circumstance. They didn't really want to, but they did. And they struggled to build a life for themselves and their family in a system that's rotten to the core and built on the principle of denying people growing into the person they want to be. I was part of the most spoiled generation of Americans that drove the worldwide financial system off a cliff. I was part of the generation that would borrow $4 billion and do hedges, forward and reverse hedges around them, have no frickin' idea how they worked. And these are the instruments that brought down the financial system. What you guys are doing here in Romania is far more meaningful than anything I did in my life. So I set up an investment fund in Romania to help Romanians grow their dreams while Romanians help me become a better person. Oh, good, I got 6 minutes. So let me tell you 2 things that have happened to me in the 10 years I've been in Romania. First, I've seen the biggest market opportunity in my life, which is why I've invested here. The 250 billion square meters in this country are incredibly valuable in a world running out, as I said, of clean air, clean water, clean soil. And that the Romanians here, relative to the people in my country and the people that I know in Western Europe, are an extraordinary, talented generation of people. We're living a historical time in Romania. I won't get into it now because sometimes there's some videos of me talking about the geopolitics. But we have in Romania the opportunities that the South Koreans got, is that we have the freedom now to make this country our own and to make it work for every single person. It's going to happen. I'm in Washington all the time telling the story of Romanians. One of the things that I hear in Washington all the time now is if you want to learn a culture, live with them in the desert. And anybody who served in Iraq and Afghanistan came back, and you never hear Ceausescu, gymnast, communist, Dracula, when you're in Washington, D.C. You hear about people who would go down the same road in Kandahar as Americans, but without MRAPs. They'd have 2 or 3 of their Jeeps blown up in the last month. They'd still go down the same road with Americans, without MRAPs. And then let me tell you one story about Romanians. There's a woman, and I didn't tell her I was going to talk about her, so I'll change her name, in Cluj, named Sarah. She's an orthodontist. She's 28 years old. She works in 3 different dental clinics, 1 in Cluj, 2 up near Baia Mare. She's driving all the time. And in these clinics, the owners make her do a high percentage of her cases for free. She's just trying to get experience. She's got an American boyfriend, and she came home on a Friday night. The apartment that she bought in Florești is poorly built. She's going to probably lose the 20,000 euros she put into it because it's gone down in value. And the plumbing in the bathroom didn't work. So she said to her American boyfriend, "Can you help me fix the plumbing this weekend?" After just coming back from Baia Mare. And he said, "No, I don't know how to fix the plumbing. Hire a plumber." So that night, the next morning, she was on the internet trying to figure out how to do the plumbing in your bathroom. That afternoon, she went to Baumax on Saturday. By Sunday night, the plumbing was fixed in her bathroom. And I said to her, "Sarah, you could count on one hand the number of 28-year-old female orthodontists in America, in Canada, in New Zealand, in Australia, in Germany, in France, in England, who could do what you just did. That's why you're so stinking talented. You're humble. Often necessity is the mother of great achievement, but you're amazing." And she goes, "Wow, I never thought about it." Finally, for me, what started out in Romania is a typical charity project, rich person helping poor person for a limited amount of time until the rich person feels satisfied and they disappear. It's changed. The Romanian tragedies become my tragedy. The Romanian dream is my dream. What did I do with my little doohickey? The largest investment that we made is this green piece of land in the Apuseni. It's bigger than it looks there. It's 100 hectares, 238 parcels. This is a different land place we started to buy a bunch of land. It's in the Appleton Park. We were told the forest around us was safe. It's a national park. It's a conservation zone. In 2009, illegal logging started around our land. We had $6 million invested in it. My Romanian partners began to address the issues with local and national authorities. They received threats, death threats on a video that we have, and their kids were harassed on the way home from school. I began to think, is my Romanian story going to end like so many foreigners that say I got ripped off, they're thieves, and I left? But for me and my investors, this was all extra money, which in a way would have made it easier to leave, maybe, or maybe not. But as this was happening, I was taking a flight from Bucharest to Frankfurt on my way back to the United States. And before we could get off the plane onto the concourse, there were some German border guards doing an extra passport check. And I speak German. I grew up in Germany in the 70s. I heard him say, these fucking Romanians are all thieves. I got over it. And then we got in the line to go through passport control. And I heard the same thing. Romanians are thieves. And I thought to myself, this is what Romanians hear all the time. This is the lie that we live with. Many times I've told my Romanian partners that I love them. But there was an old, toothless woman, peasant, who heard me say that. And she says, I'll be able to tell whether you love me based on whether you come back. And I realized love isn't a feeling. It's a commitment, and it's an action. And as I stood at the customs at Frankfurt, I started to cry. And I said to myself, hell no. Hell no to a Romania where a small number of incompetent leaders can destroy the individual achievements of millions of competent people. Hell no to corruption, which leads to the death of people that never should have died because we can't afford basic generic medicine. And even though I don't have a Romanian passport, at that moment, I decided I'm not going to quit. I became Romanian in my soul, and I'm going to fight the illegal logging battle. I got my iPhone, I bought a Jeep, and I chased him around the mountains. I've got amazing stories of people coming after me with chainsaws. But if I think back to my business, this is what I did in the venture business. If a big company tried to sink our startup by giving away free product, big companies would lie about our product performance. Big companies would buy our customers by giving away free product. Big companies would steal our employees by tripling their salaries. You fight by offering a better alternative and never giving up. And in the forest, we've won after 8 years. So let me conclude by saying, no matter what each of you is doing, it's easy to feel small in the face of challenges and the barriers to change. But we need to do things in teams, united in a purpose. In our companies, in our projects, at Avon, at the COT, in Romania One, the foundation I set up. And if you think Romanians are hard to organize, they don't work in teams, go visit India. They're worst. But Gandhi did it. And Gandhi said two things. A small group of committed people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that's ever changed the world. And he says, first, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then we win. Romanians are winners. Sunt mândru că sunt roman.
Thank you, Don. I know that you came back. You are reaching soon 100 trips to Romania. And I know that you have a high opinion about us, but sometimes I cannot wonder if Europe doesn't expect us to fail. What advice can you give us as individual to not do that?
Just my advice is I know Descartes, so it's easy for me to talk about it, Christie's got a great team, and they're sticking with it. So my advice is you can't do anything on your own. So whatever you try to accomplish, do it in a team and don't quit. And in the end, much like in a company where I've started companies where we didn't have customers for 3 years. Then we finally got 1, and we finally got 2. And then in 1 year, we grow 6 times. There's inflection points where change happens. And there's an inflection point. There is going to be an inflection point in this country where we have a washout of the political culture that doesn't understand that the way you grow an economy is make this the easiest place in the world for its citizens to start a company, to invest their time, invest their talents. It's going to happen. But we never see it. What keeps us humble is we don't see these inflection points. But do things in teams.
Where is this point for Romania?
What?
Where is this point, inflection point
close.
for Romania?
I think it's close. I mean, I'm involved. I've gotten involved. Ambassador Gittenstein asked me to live with him. And I don't like politics. I tell Romanian this stuff I'm doing in Romania 1, it's not about politics, it's about life. It's about our lives here. But man, there is so much pressure on this government to change. And given the geopolitics in the world, I mean, America is making a multi-billion-dollar investment in this country. And my message in Washington is that we better make the same investment economically in Romania and the same investment politically in Romania. And people want to hear it.
Do you have any questions? Okay.
Diana Mereu, GSK. Thank you very much for sharing your story and also for valuing our country. I think there are many Romanians that don't value it as much as you do, so thank you for that. And you mentioned Steve Jobs and Apple, and that indeed Y stands at the heart of their marketing strategy. So I'd also like to ask you, why do you get out of bed in the morning? Is it to fail and learn from your failures, or is it to succeed?
Well, in the end, when I learned, I said in the 11th through the 14th year, I became very successful. When I learned to invest in things that are 5 to 10 years out, when I learned to have a clear purpose in these companies, when I learned, well, those were probably the main reasons I began to succeed. I pick winners. When I talk about failure is simply how you succeed. I mean, when you're starting something from scratch, I started this Democracy Foundation here. For 2 years, we planted like 50 seeds, only 3 grew. But in the end, I only pick winners. And so these things I say about Romania, I'm not doing this altruistically. I know we're going to win. And so what gets me out of bed is the people I work with. And certainly that I'm on the winning side. You know, so often in life, we look at, if you're on the ocean, you look at the waves on the ocean and the turbulence. Or if we're on the streets, we feel the wind. But what we don't see is we don't see the undercurrents of the ocean. They're going that way, even if the surface is like that. And we don't see the jet stream in the air. I mean, I fly over here every month, so I know it takes me 2 hours shorter to come over than to go back. It's because of these huge jet streams. The jet streams behind Romania are in the right direction. And I'm in it to win it. And you guys are winners. You don't have to see it. I mean, the beauty of humility is that you don't see that in yourself. Well, that little fat little redheaded kid who I was right there with a twitch, I never thought I was any good. But my parents loved me. And so I think it was in the humility that I had and all those failures. I just kept saying, I'm going to learn. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to fail. But I'm never going to give up on the goal.
Are there any other questions in the room? Don, I'm curious, and I know maybe Christy is also. How much it will be a house in your town?
What's that?
How much it will be a house in your town?
A house?
Yeah, in your town that you are building.
Oh, it's going to be cheaper than living in a apartment in Cluj. Yeah, so we bought our land for 50 cents a square meter. And that we've studied towns. The concept's called new urbanism, in these towns in America. And the great ones start off cheaper than any, like Serenbe outside Atlanta, 30% cheaper than anything on the north side of Atlanta to be in the south. But they're so popular, people start flying in from all over the United States to live at Serenbe.
Great. Well, good luck with your project. Thank you for being with us.